Throughout human history, scientists have conducted experiments that have fundamentally changed our way of life and our future. While some of these were the product of years of planning, others were discovered by chance, leading to groundbreaking results. One such serendipitous experiment is the famous Double Slit Experiment. A project that began as a routine test has now opened the door for us to embrace the extraordinary nature of quantum physics with greater enthusiasm. And unexpectedly for many, it has become an experiment where science finally discovered God. Let's together explore the extraordinary truths of this groundbreaking experiment, which holds revolutionary implications for both science and belief systems in one of the most outlandish and fantastic fields of physics. It's the 1800s. A heated debate has taken place among some scientists. The topic is, what is light? Isaac Newton, in his studies and experiments, argued that light is a bundle of particles and follows linear movements. However, a group including Robert Hooke, Christian Huygens, and Leonhard Euler disagreed, arguing that light actually behaves like a wave. Of course, standing against Newton was not easy in those years, so these theories were somewhat overlooked. But about 100 years later, a scientist named Thomas Young tried to explain this issue again with the relatively advanced technology of the day and conducted some experiments. After these experiments, considered the ancestor of the double slit experiment, the scientific community placed the wave theory of light ahead of Newton's theory of light, and it became the generally accepted principle. But did the story end there? Of course not. With today's technology, it has taken on a completely different form. Now we are delving into the depths of the double slit experiment. To better understand the nature of light, these double slit experiments are still repeated today with various wavelengths and types of light. Just as Thomas Young discovered, the wave pattern reappears. To understand this phenomenon more clearly, scientists begin to use electrons instead of light. As you know, an electron is one of the building blocks of an atom. It has a mass, and the experiment is repeated with electrons in the same way. A single slit is placed in front of a surface. The electron gun is fired, and as everyone expects, those linear traces appear on the surface, just like a particle would create. So far, everything is normal. The scientists, just as they did with light, now place a double slit barrier in front of the surface, and suddenly, things take a different turn. When the double slit experiment is performed, it leaves a wavy surface pattern on the ground, just as with light. Now, when you think about it, this is impossible. We have electrons, which are scientifically proven to be matter, but their behavior is that of a wave. People become utterly confused. They repeat the experiment countless times. The result is always the same. Thinking there might be a systematic error, an electron sensor is placed in front of one of the slits. This way, the number of electrons passing through that slit can be measured. The experiment is started again. With each passage of an electron, the electron sensor begins to beep and light up. Hours later, when the surface is examined exactly as expected, two straight traces appear behind the slit. To understand if there was a systematic error, the sensor is turned off and the experiment is repeated. But hours later, the same wavy pattern reappears on the surface. That is the moment everyone's mind is bewildered. The electron, one of the fundamental building blocks of the atom described as a particle, exists as a wave when there is no observer, but in the presence of an observer, it transforms into matter, its form as we know it. How can this be possible? How can an electron know it is being observed? How can the reality of a substance, or indeed the reality of life entirely, differ completely with the presence of an observer? The experiment is repeated countless times today with light, electrons, protons, and the result always remains the same. In wave form when there is no observer, in matter form when there is an observer. We have not yet found the answer to this question with science and technology, but perhaps the answer has been right in front of our eyes for hundreds of years. When we examine ancient religions and texts, a few common points stand out in their information about creation. Let me explain with a few examples. According to Mayan belief, before creation, there were two entities, Tepel, the builder, and the sacred spirit serpent, Guchumats. These two entities united and created matter with their thoughts, creating everything that exists. In Hindu belief, the creator Brahma creates everything that exists from the ocean of infinity. According to the Sumerians, everything that exists was created from the ancient ocean of creation. According to Egypt, when everything was shapeless in the ocean of infinity, the creator serpent Apet formed Aten. Aten then created all remaining existence from the ocean of infinity. In ancient Greece, before creation, only chaos existed. Matter had no form. There was only chaos. And then the Creator, whose name is not given in Greek mythology, created the universe and everything within it by bringing order to chaos, giving shape and order to everything that exists. I think you see the common point. In all these beliefs, there is a creation ocean, a chaotic accumulation. Then God, whose name changes according to that culture, gives shape to this chaotic ocean or chaos, creating the material universe. Or, for some, a sacred spirit serpent combines with a formative entity, creating the material universe. Now let's consider these symbolic narratives with our 21st century perception. Quantum physics tells us that the fundamental building blocks of matter behave not as matter, but as a wave, and these waves, the energy form of matter, before it gains its material property, are called strings in quantum physics. So, according to today's science, the fundamental building block of matter is not the atom, but string waves, which are a form of energy. Now let's bring mythology and science together. The string structure can be likened to a crawling serpent, and this string community can be likened to a surging ocean. At least, this is the image we theoretically predict for now. And matter is formed when these strings somehow, according to the double slit experiment, the presence of an observer causes this, transform from a wavy energy form into a matter form, creating atoms. Ancient mythology is not the only source referencing this phenomenon. If any of you have researched belief philosophies like Sufism and Buddhism, you must have come across this sentence, the nature of things. This phrase is generally used by scholars to define the concept of matter coming into being in the physical world. But the purpose of this saying is not for saints to teach their students the laws of physics. In fact, it is quite the opposite. It is because they taught how a human, when reaching the level of a perfect human being, can manipulate this concept with their thoughts. These mystics, whom we call miracle workers, can sometimes instantly travel from one place to another. Stories of Buddhist monks who are unaffected by fire and cold are often told. There are written documents about them transforming certain everyday objects into different objects when necessary. But the common denominator is again the same: the fact that a human, when reaching a sufficient level, has the ability to change the fundamental structure of matter and even the concepts we call physical laws. This, once again, is a few examples of how some people in history practically used the phenomenon of matter, changing its structure according to the presence of a conscious observer during an experiment, transitioning to different levels of existence. Welcome to the point where faith and science finally meet. We cannot expect those who interpreted ancient texts to perceive a quantum physics concept as we perceive it. As I said earlier, due to their structure, they symbolize strings as a creative serpent, and the quantum dimension where strings collectively wave as an ocean of infinity. Here, two very serious questions arise. First, how or from whom did these ancient civilizations learn or hear about such an advanced level of physics which they could not understand more clearly and transform it into their epics and mythology in this way? You will get the answer to this question in my upcoming Ancient Aliens documentary. The second question is, if at first all existence was a sea of strings in the quantum dimension, which entity looked at this sea as an observer, causing this sea of strings to be shaped by its thoughts and create existence? The answer to the question brings us to the entity we call God. But this does not provide us with a clear answer, because this time, even taking this simplest example, if we consider it in the current existence matter, just like in the laboratory where the experiment was conducted, turns into a wave when there is no observer around. Well, if the entity we call God constantly observes existence, as heavenly religions claim, then this transformation should not occur. Our electron should constantly remain in a material state and never turn into a wave, because there is a constant observer observing it. Here's a mind-bending topic for discussion. No matter how you approach the subject, it appears both as proof of God's existence and as its antithesis. And it doesn't end there. It turns out that even humans within this creation can consciously or unconsciously perform this transformation. The quantum world is exactly such a world. It is a realm of reality and beyond reality, where all paradoxes, all uncertainties and certainties coexist, and we have only just begun to open the door to this world. We are talking about a scientific phenomenon that will shape our entire fundamental understanding of physics and, at this rate, our concepts of faith in the next 100 years. The future will indeed be exciting. Based on the results of this experiment, don't forget to write your thoughts in the comments section and like the video to support me. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.